makes you to work hard for yourself. He kind of reminds me of President Kibaki, who I kept hearing, he would not give you anything. Naenda fanya kazi, hiyo hapana, kila mtu ajishughulikie. Yeah? Meaning, we may be offended when he says your country is the asshole.
Yes.
We may be offended. At first I was, but after reflecting, I said, he's actually saying, clean up your home yard, clean up your place. And then, of course, when our presidents, leaders traveled to America, it was very sad. I remember in one occasion when we're being sent photos of all our leaders and the shopping they are doing in New York.
Oh my.
While guys from Europe, in fact, have come with a private, what do you call it, a public transport.
Yes.
They are just put in either now, just because they're president, you put them in first class.
Yes.
But they're traveling in the now for us, special jets.
Hold it there. Hold it there.
Pearl Radio, the home of fresh and classic hits.
This day, as I had promised you, it is a day where, well, in Kenya, like a few days after the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States of America, His Excellency, do they call them Excellency?
Yes, His Excellency, indeed.
President Donald Trump, and we just want to take a look at some of the implications of his presidency for Kenya and Africa at large. There are people who say that whatever happens in America does not concern me. I don't care what happens there as long as I'm in Kenya. Is my skin white? Do I even want to go to America? I don't care what happens there. But listen, you will get to understand that you must care. You need care. You need to care because America is a superpower. It's a big world economy, and we depend on so many other things on America. And therefore, we just want to have a conversation around this right here. If you have any question whatsoever, you can text us on 0702 969 969. And of course, I'm not alone in studio. I have a great man right here. You've been here before.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I've been here.
Yes, I saw that name. I'm like,
twice, and I enjoyed it. Yes.
Always good to have you right here. Can you first of all introduce yourself and explain your expertise in the U.S.-Africa relations?
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes.
First, my name's Gerald Walterfang.
Walterfang.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
And I am a director of WDS Africa. It's a personal and professional development organization. But before getting there, I served in what you call the civil society, not-for-profit NGO sector for the last 20 years.
Wow.
And therefore, the experience I have is relating with the US-based institutions such as USAID, and also I worked for a faith-based organization, Mennonite Central Committee.
Yes.
So it's also got its roots in the US. And besides that, I worked for an initiative we started in Kenya called the Kenya NGOs Alliance Against Malaria.
Okay.
We were heavily funded by Bill and Melinda Gates. We were heavily funded also by institutions such as Johns Hopkins. So that relationship is there. But besides that, I studied in Canada, and therefore one of the things you had to study was the USA. And by default, because I studied political science, economy, and psychology, then the US is a place of great influence that you need to study, whether you wanted or did not want.
Yeah.
And so that's the claim for any expertise, per se. But in introducing myself, I'm also a convener of governance and leadership within the Kenya Christians Professional Forum. And it's vis-a-vis how I ended up here last time with you, and the interest because of good governance and leadership. And the US is big on issues, human rights, issues of good governance, and we will be able to discuss that, I'm sure, with the subject of the day. And then besides that, I have also been serving on a board of health rights NGOs Forum, HELAF. I've served in different capacities, in different boards. But today I thought I'd do something a bit special for you and for ourselves and for the viewers. I realize we are very proud of where we come from in terms of the schools we we went to. So I start with my old village school called Mutadhine Primary School.
Okay.
Which after that I came to a school called St. Peter's in Mumias.
Mumias.
Yes, vis-a-vis why my a little bit of a heavy accent from Mumias.
Yes, Mumias.
Yeah. Then from Mumias I went straight to a school called Kaptagat Preparatory, and immediately after that came to a school called Khalsa Primary, and from there I went to high school in Highway Secondary School.
Ma school.
Yes, that's the place.
Yeah.
And then thereafter I went to do my A-levels at what they call Patch or Nairobi School.
Nairobi School.
And the rest they say is history. Of course, campus, I went to UVic, which is in British Columbia in Canada, and thereafter I did communications like yourself at University of Leeds. Then I came local because I knew you'd say boss. Kazi yako ni kutembea tu nje. So I went to USIU Africa.
Okay.
And that's my journey in that area. I felt it's good because when I hear listeners, there's a time in this conversation we may reach a point of saying, when you see a good leader, ametoka shule gani? When you hear certain leaders and the way they speak, pia unauliza, kwani alitoka shule gani? So that's myself. I'm a family man. I love family. That's the basic foundation of good leadership, even for the president that we're going to converse. And therefore, I am blessed with 2 wonderful girls and 2 wonderful boys, and I'm a grandfather at this juncture to a lovely girl called Zahara, who is a mixture of all kinds of heritage: Ethiopian, Kenyan, Kikuyu, Masai.
We are sorry.
Yes, so that's about who I am, and I love the Lord, and I love serving the Lord in all capacities and in all spaces that He has put me. And now I look back, I see the dots of how He truly is the what you call the wind below our wings.
Absolutely.
So we keep soaring in His name.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. That is good. What an introduction. When I grow up,
yes,
I want to be like you. I want to be like you. Karibu sana. Now, the inauguration happened yesterday.
Yes,
did you watch it?
I did
Were
watch
you
it.
there?
Let me even start by saying,
yes,
I was one of the Donald Trump supporters from 2016.
Really?
And of course, people who know me, including my friends, were a bit puzzled. Gerald, the person we know, the person who fights for people's rights, the person who loves equality and justice.
Yes.
How dare you say that that's the guy that you are voting for? And I said something, Daniel. Sometimes we are Christians, and I love that we walk through the journey. But sometimes we can be Christians by name, Christians by baptism. But there are people who may not claim to be Christians, but the deeds that they do are Christian.
Yeah.
And so I said, for this gentleman, for me, this idea of being confused whether you're a man or a woman was very clear for him. And for me, it goes back to Genesis. He made them both male and female. And I said, truly, God, if for anything else, this man understands that if you are to be one who is one with God, you are either created male or female. And so that was the genesis of me saying, I am going with this gentleman. Now, this is the irony of it. President Biden is Catholic. I am Catholic.
Okay.
But the saddest part is that he was propagating the very opposite of what it is that we believe in, sanctity of life, and the fact that they are both male and female. The fact that his son Biden ended up being a little bit confused, that should not in any way help him to decide that he is going to go contrary to God's providence and what God has created. So that was my clear point of departure. I love President Obama. He is ours, we claim him, but there's a point of departure also with him because of that very aspect.
I remember. I remember when he came to Kenya some time back, and under the leadership of the former president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
And sorry, 2014 is around 2014.
It was like Uhuru was like, this is a non-issue.
Now
it's a non-issue.
Let me tell you, my brother, we evaluate presidents with the fruits, not the things you said to us. Now it is with the fruits. And that was one time I gave President Uhuru the highest honor and regard, because at that juncture he said, we are not confused. And this is not part of our priority. There are greater things. For that one, I gave him a big tick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we dive into the conversation right here. If you have any question whatsoever, the number is 0702969 what will Donald Trump presidency mean to Kenya and Africa at large? Now, based on Donald Trump's previous presidency, what expectations might African nations have as he takes up office now?
One of the opportunities we have is looking into the AGOA, the African Development, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, in terms of what is it that Kenya can benefit from that. And of course, this is an act that was put into policy by the US in the year 2000 in order to help sub-Saharan Africa take advantage. And therefore, you are able to sell over 1,800 products. And you are also given an opportunity for other additional 5,000 products. Now, one of the things that we must understand about the US, whether it's President Trump or it is Obama who was there, they operate on what is the American interest first. So it's always about them. So one of the things I always say is we must also learn how to make our interest count. So with the US and with Donald Trump, yes, indeed, people have been told to pack up. Just like we would ask people to park if you're here illegally, if you're here as a criminal. We don't want that. If you remember when we had issues with Al-Shabaab,
yes,
we knew that the people would profile a certain community, but we were saying it's not the community we are after. It is the individuals that we are seeing here who are elements of illegality and who themselves are criminals. So if we are not criminals, he says, you're welcome to America, indeed. And you remember in his show where he used, what was that show called where you used to say you are fired? He hosted a Kenyan, a sister of a former ICT minister, Musheru. There was a lady there, and you could see the camaraderie and the love for Kenya. So this thing of believing that he is anti-Africa is not true. Let's pick that part that scares many people. He is anti-Africa because he speaks truth into anti-African poor leadership. Poor leadership. He called us a very difficult name, which I actually had to inbox his daughter, Ivana, when she was campaigning. I said, I'm with your dad, but on this one, we are proud Kenyans too.
Yes.
Yeah? And I reminded her in a small write-up, we brought down the British from the air with rudimentary guns.
Yes.
So please tell dad not to test us. Of course, it's a superpower. And of course, but the point that we were making is that poor leadership is what frustrates him. Even in America itself, it's about what they are going through. So for us, an opportunity is to repair the relationships between Kenya and the US. Our president has an uphill task of what he has to do, because remember, he was very open and candid about where he stands with Biden. And there's no problem with you being friends. There's consequences. So there's the opportunity, because Kenya in itself is very strategically positioned. Kenya, spiritually and physically and even economically, we are the entry point, the eastern gate of Africa. And everybody knows that. Sometimes we forget about that. And so it's an opportunity for us to say, yes, we are your friends. Yes, you'd like to use our port Mombasa. Yes, we know that there's technology that you have. We can leverage on that. And we have been friends with the US for a long time.
Absolutely.
You remember even for our own education, what you call the 1960s airlift for people to go and study. We have benefited from that relationship. President J.F. Kennedy was a good friend to this nation. So we want to continue to uphold that friendship. And we want to do that by building those relationships. They will mean investments coming to Kenya. They will mean support for Kenya, even in areas that we may struggle with in technology. They will mean also a balancing act between ourselves and the East. We are friends with the Chinese. We are friends with the Americans. We are friends with Europe. One of the greatest things that Kenya used to be known for, we were at that time what was called non-aligned. We were friends with everybody, and we were liked by everybody, and we were invited for peacekeeping by everybody. I don't know about today, my good brother. Let me pause there.
I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know either. Just holding it on there with the coming in of President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Let's go to our neighboring country, Uganda.
Yes.
We saw what happened to Uganda. The sanctions they received from US concerning their stand on the LGBTQ
Yes.
agenda in Uganda, and President Yoweri Museveni was like, no, this one we will not agree.
We are not
don't
budging.
want.
We are not budging.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything that is going to change with with now the incoming of President Donald Trump in the relationship between Uganda and America?
Well, given that Uganda had taken a stand for Africa, I also credit President Museveni. We may not agree in some areas, but in this respect, he has shown leadership. And he took it to the extent that it would affect him, including the expected income or investment that would take place through the health sector, PEPFAR, and through maybe the Global Fund. Yeah. And because of that relationship and because of that determination, the relationship between the US and Uganda was not very good. I can bet you that this president called Museveni must have been raising his hands and saying yes. Yeah. So in terms of policy, I'm sure he's delighted. Of course, he has to also work hard in terms of what you call justice and fairness, and of course the human rights aspect. And those are things sometimes we get a bit hard on our African leaders sometimes, and sometimes because of a position like that which he took, he finds it that he is put in a corner where they are being asked to do things against their culture, things against their religion. And at that particular time, nobody wanted to hear you speak about religion. The previous regime. Another reason why I am pro Donald Trump. And of course, people were like, he's anti-black. The other day, he was able to prove in the inauguration, the blacks have supported him. And nobody put a gun to their head to go and vote for him. The Hispanics have voted for him. They have put him in the office, and he has remained true to his word. When he came 2016, he spoke. The evangelicals held him to account, and even after that, one of the things I noticed, and it's not spoken about, he reached out even to the Catholics. He reached out to other denominations. He says, listen, I have no issue. First and foremost, I believe in God. You remember when he was talking about the Bible that his mother gave him when he was young. He says, let's not mix up issues. I'm a businessman. We play it a bit rough, but I still believe in God. And when he came on board, he demonstrated it not by saying, he actually did. He reverted back. He said, I heard people cannot teach about God in class. Well, under my regime, before even the ink is dry, I'm signing it. He's done the same thing yesterday. Yes, all these things that the Democrats were reversing, all these things about you can't even mention the word God anywhere. I mean, what kind of a world are we? They were reminded yesterday, in God we trust, the foundation of America itself. The time they became a nation 400 years ago, it is in God we trust that they based all their development and all their growth. So for me, there are issues we have to deal with. And I like him because one of the other things he does is he makes you to work hard for yourself. He kind of reminds me of President Kibaki, who I kept hearing, he would not give you anything. Naenda fanya kazi. Hapana, kila mtu ajishughulikie. Meaning, we may be offended when he says your country is the asshole. We may be offended. At first I was, but after reflecting, I said, he's actually saying, clean up your home yard, clean up your place. And then, of course, when our presidents, leaders traveled to America, it was very sad. I remember in one occasion when we were being sent photos of all our leaders and the shopping they are doing in New York. While guys from Europe, in fact, have come with a private, what do you call it, a public transport. They are just put in either now, just because they're president, you put them in first class. But they're traveling in the now for us. Special jets.
Hold it there. Hold it there. Now, Donald Trump. Well, we're talking about the impact of President Donald Trump's presidency on Kenya and even the Africa at large. But let's look at this point of our current president.
Yes.
And the country we are living in, Kenya, right now.
Yeah.
He enjoyed a relatively our president.
Yeah.
A relatively good relationship with the former president Joe Biden.
Yes.
What do you think this term is going to look like for the president here in Kenya vis-a-vis the president in America?
You know, we are Christians.
Yes.
And the president is a Christian.
Yeah.
And so is the new president in America who has come in.
Yes.
The 45th and the 47th. It could be a very difficult time if the president of Kenya does not adhere to good governance, ethics, and integrity. That could be the first point of their conflict or departure. It could also be difficult for President Ruto if we continue with the sustained abductions and with the injury and demoralization of the young people in Kenya. It could be a difficult time. Why do I say that? Because there are lessons to be learned from Donald Trump. He himself, in his inauguration, a lovely speech to follow through several times, he says, I am here to reverse all the betrayals. Number one. So that's a signal. I am here to make America great again. Number two. And he continues to say, I'm here to restore the dignity of the American government. And he said, we will do this by making sure that the judiciary does its work, not that it becomes a witch hunt for others. The judiciary does its work. And he continued to say that when he is the president, one of the things that he's working on is that he knows God brought him for a purpose. And that purpose is to secure America. Now, in terms of our President Ruto, of course, Kenya is one of the countries that is highlighted throughout the globe. Whatever happens here, you know, they say if America sneezes, the rest of the world gets a cold. Well, guess what? If we sneeze in Kenya, Africa, and even the other parts of the world begin to get a cold. And that has been tested. 2007, what happened? And then, of course, even in 2017, there was a keen eye on this country. So it would behoove Kenya to review and look at its foreign policy. It would behoove President Ruto to first bear the fruits and the things that Kenyans have been crying out about, such as the abductions, to make that a thing of the past and a thing that we'll never go through again.
Absolutely.
So that particular point, called the human rights, called the Kenyan rights, that would be a point of conflict. The other, of course, President Trump is a hard bargainer. Of course, President Ruto must also play ball and be a hard bargainer too, on behalf of Kenya, to have Kenya self-interest. So when we're talking about the port of Mombasa, he must also be able to know what is it in for us as Kenyans, even as we deal with you as President Donald Trump. The other point of conflict would be LGBTQ. It is very clear the signal our president gave us when he came on board. It is very clear the signal this president has given. On those two areas, there are points of conflict or points of building that relationship. The final one, Transparency International. Transparency and corruption in this nation. That would be another major point of either departure or amendment. Amendment.
Okay.
Yes.
Very interesting right there. Very interesting sentiments. It's going to be a very interesting period to watch how it's going to be, because if you look at President Donald Trump, he is categorical that he's not going to tax his people, overtax his people, the Americans, in the expense of other people or other countries.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
So what is going to happen to now the countries that have been benefiting from this taxation?
Yes.
Yeah.
You brought a very crucial point indeed for us. The economic, the finance bill.
Yeah.
The one that produced the Gen Z revolution, which nobody should deny. That is a fact of this country's history. And I want to thank the young people who, after looking at us, who we are the older ones, who should be charting the way, realize we have either become too fearful to express ourselves and the pains we're going through, or we did simply not want to do that because of conditioning. And so they taught us one thing, that indeed you must fight for your rights. I think it's the former president who was busy the other day, instructing in a polite way his daughter Ngina. This thing, I have realized, you don't wait for it. He's from the generation that was waiting for it. This one, I think you go and fight for your rights and for your space. Kenya, we have been told this, and it pains many of us when we look at the records, and it's true. When we are told that we were giving Korea, South Korea, we were giving Singapore loans. The first time I heard that, I said somebody just trying to mess up with our minds.
Yeah.
And when you look at the records, it is true, including Ghana. It also used to give loans, not only to, say, South Korea, Singapore, but also Britain itself. Udbol, cocoa, our coffee here. Now, when you hear that, and then you come to 2025, 2024, and you put Singapore on the map, and you put Kenya on the map, you ask yourself, what happened? And it is very simple, Daniel. A gentleman from Singapore said, our formula, our strategy was the following, and we are all waiting with a bated breath with pens. MPH. We said MPH. That sounds like Mombasa Provincial Hospital. No. MPH. Everything you do in Singapore must be through merit. You sit in this desk through merit. The next person in the next office through merit. Anybody serving government through merit. Then P, you are being asked, what is it that you must do? Everything you do, you must do it professionally. And you do it with diligence. And the last one is everything you do must be honest.
Honesty.
Must be honest. So along our journey, 63, we come to 73. People begin to become very creative. Suddenly, we bring laws and rules such as, Daniel, you can be a minister and also be a businessman. What does that do? Conflict of interest.
Yes.
So Kenya's economy needs to get back to where it was.
Right.
I listen a lot to Jimmy Wanjigi, and I hear what he is saying, and I said, this gentleman is beginning to make sense. He says, yes, we have had the political, what you call liberation. Now we need an economic liberation. Guess what Donald Trump said to the Americans in the inauguration? Welcome to the economic liberation of America. We will never be back where we were again.
Absolutely.
We shall make America great again.
All right.
There we are.
Because of time, finally, I wish we had more time. We need to get a segment for this leadership conversation. But looking at Africa, there's the aspect that Africa is really facing the East. So much. That's China as a giant, and China is so much in Africa. And in the previous government, he emphasized countering China's influence in Africa. Now, is there a foreseeing of a similar or intensified approach in his presidency? And yesterday we also saw him say that he will reclaim control of the Panama Canal from China. Because he said we did not give it to China.
We gave it to Panama. And he added it was a mistake even to give it back. Let me begin by saying the following. Every country ought to learn that it has to have its self-interest first. That's what we were taught in Political Science 101. And America shows that very well. China learned it. And learned it well. Remember, China, the Chinese dynasties were great many years ago. They know what it means not to be great again. So Is Trump going to try and make Africa be part of his agenda? Of course, because he also wants to flex the global positioning of America and the greatness of America. Is that going to include Africa? Of course, it will include Africa. This is the point for us, Daniel. What is Africa doing to be able to position itself as an equal partner on the table, not to be part of the menu, to be decided like the scramble of Africa, 1885, where people decide who takes what, and you yourselves are seated there. Yeah? So Africa, and especially this African Union, AU, needs to strengthen the leadership of Africa so that we are able to sit on the table and negotiate with other partners like USA or China on equal terms. President Ibrahim Traore has shown the way. How do you get your uranium being sold at 0.8 cents? And then he discovers for the same grammage you can sell it at $200. And now they are manufacturing their own gold, which now is helping to pay all the debts in the country. How long has he been there? How long has he been there? So it's important for African leaders to be able to sit and know that we are as valuable as the rest of the world. In fact, the rest of the world is so smart, they depend on Africa and they know it.
Absolutely.
So when you start giving us things like vaccinating our cows and vaccinating our people so that we are depopulated, etc.
Right.
The Kenyan Gen Z of today is very much aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. We can't say any more now because of time. Thank you very much. Gerald Walterfang, the director, WDS Africa. We'll have this conversation again. We'll have more of this conversation again. So that we can get to know what is happening around us.
Indeed.
Very important.
To be informed and to be aware is the way to development for this.
Parting shot.
My parting shot is that leadership is very crucial. You said something about we don't care what happens in America. It's the same attitude I hear that I really don't care who my MCA is, and I really don't care what's happening in my neighborhood. And I want to big shout to these people who are called residential chairpersons and the executive. You go through a lot of pain. They say, those jobs are for idle people. You got to take recognition of what's important for you. It starts at your residence. Leadership is very crucial. It depends on whom you have put into an office to show you the way. And when we get poor leadership, President Moi said, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. And he helped us to have a bit of maisha mbaya. So my parting shot to everybody here is please take leadership seriously.
Yes.
Do not look at the humble beginning of that leadership. Whenever you are planted, do things with MPH, merit, professionalism, and honesty. God bless all of you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely beautiful. It's an amazing conversation right here with Gerald Walterfang, the director WDS Africa, and we've been talking about the implications of Donald Trump presidency for Kenya and Africa at large. And of course, it's gonna be, as we say, time.
Interesting, right?
Time will tell.
Interesting, right?
Time will tell. Thank you very, very much. See you on the other side of the hour. This is Pearl Radio 96.9 FM, the home of fresh and classic hits. You are on Pearl in the Morning with me, Daniel Anunda.
96.9 FM, Pearl Radio.